President Obama's call for Israel to return to its pre-1967 borders has many Israelis worried. They don't believe their country can protect itself if it gives up that land.
Well, some even believe it could lead to war. Chris Mitchell has the story from Jerusalem.
Some call the 1967 lines Auschwitz borders, or the kind that could lead to another Holocaust. Others say it would be suicide for Israel to return to them. Reserve Major General Uzi Dayan says they're impossible to defend.
I don't think that Israel will never return to the 67 line. But if somebody thinks that this is a good idea, this is exactly the situation that will bring us the next war.
This is Latrun. It overlooks the Ayalon Valley where battles have been fought since Bible times. From here, Arab gunners prevented Jewish travel on this only road to Jerusalem. These old vehicles testify to the Arab attacks on Jewish convoys. The 1967 lines are not too far from here, but times have changed. If Israel withdraws to those lines, its citizens would have to contend with rockets instead of bullets. UN Resolution 242 promised Israel defensible borders, but if Israel withdrew to the 1967 lines, in some places it would be just 9 miles wide.
In some places, you know, between Tulkarem, which is a Palestinian city, town, and Netanya, which is on the Mediterranean, the distance is exactly the distance between JFK and LaGuardia.
Israel's major roads and all planes taking off and landing from the main international airport would be in danger from rockets. 70% of the population and 80% of the Israeli industrial production is in that coastal strip. One of the main defenses of Israel, Dayan says, is to maintain control over the Jordan Valley.
67 line is a line that actually is the anti-defensible border. It's an unsecured border, and it's a temptation to attack you. The only candidates is the Jordan River, the Jordan Bakaa.
It would provide Israel with a strategic depth of just 40 miles against ballistic missiles, the same perimeter as U.S. naval carriers keep. The Jordan Valley defense provides about a 4,000-foot natural mountain barrier between Israel and Jordan to guard against conventional attacks from the east, from countries like Iran. Israel must also control the airspace. A fighter jet can fly from the Jordan River to the Mediterranean Sea in just 4 minutes. If Israel wants to survive with all that's happening in the Middle East, Dayan says, it will have to base its security on defensible borders. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, the Jerusalem-Tel Aviv corridor.
Well, that report tells you why Benjamin Netanyahu gave our president a public lecture on Friday as to why the 67 borders would not be ever acceptable to Israel. When you have an implacable foe that wants to fire rockets at you on a continual basis, you cannot survive as a country. You can't have air travel, you can't have shipping, you can't have any kind of security within your borders if there's only 9 miles separating you from the ocean. That's why the president's call for the 67 borders as the sort of the end point of negotiation within land swaps is just unacceptable from an Israeli point of view. Now, there's another bit of misinformation in what he said, in that in the controversy following the Thursday speech, he's trying to say, well, this has been the long-standing, if unstated, policy of the United States of America. Wrong. If you look back in history, I'll read you what President Johnson said in 1968. It is clear, however, that a return to the situation of June 4th, 1967, the borders, will not bring peace. There must be secure and there must be recognized borders. Here's what President Reagan said in 1982. The pre-1967 borders, Israel was barely 10 miles wide at its narrowest point. The bulk of Israel's population lived within artillery range of hostile armies. I'm not about to ask Israel to live that way again. Now, Presidents Bush and Clinton both repeated similar statements, so it's hardly been the long-standing policy of the United States to return to the 67 borders. We need to be aware of what's going on. We need to be aware and protect Israel. We need to understand that when you start talking about the 67 borders, you give up the Wailing Wall. The land where the Knesset currently sits, you give up. You give up the city of Jerusalem, and Jews are no longer welcome on the Temple Mount, anywhere near the Temple Mount. That is what the 67 borders mean, and that is unacceptable. Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN newsroom. Lee?
Gordon, here at home, bad weather isn't stopping rescuers from searching through the rubble for survivors of Sunday's devastating tornado in Joplin, Missouri. The town's death toll reached 116 Monday, a number that's expected to rise. Still, Missouri Governor Jay Nixon vows crews will keep searching until everyone is accounted for. 17 survivors were pulled from the rubble yesterday. One man found after using his cell phone to let people know he was alive.
He's my friend, my best friend. Yeah, I just got a message from him and he said I'm stuck.
The tornado in Joplin, Missouri is the latest in a spring full of twisters. This year's outbreak the deadliest since 1953. The California preacher who predicted the rapture would take place last Saturday now says the world will be destroyed in October. Harold Camping says that Saturday was what he called a spiritual judgment day, rather than a day when believers were to be taken from the earth. Americans had mixed reaction when nothing happened Saturday.
I don't understand it. I don't know. I don't understand what happened.
Think it's going to happen next year? 2012, maybe.
No, this is the year. All the calculations indicate this is the year. It's locked in for 2011. So I don't understand why nothing has happened yet.
It's also very clear that no one knows the day and the hour. So when someone comes out and says they know the day and the hour, we know it's false. And but that doesn't stop people. I mean, this isn't the first time this has happened. People get fooled all the time.
Camping had predicted the apocalypse in 1994 and later said it didn't happen because of a mathematical error. Gordon?
If anyone ever tells you that they know the date and time, please, please, please do not believe them. They have no idea what they're talking about. Jesus himself said, no one knows the date and time. I don't even know the date and time. That's what Jesus said. Now, if he doesn't know, if the angels don't know, then I'm sorry. Nobody knows. And it's not a mathematical error here. It's a doctrinal error. You don't know, and the more you say you do, you're just misleading people. Now, here is the sign. And this is what Jesus said, and you find it in Matthew chapter 24. When you wake up one day and the sun is no longer shining, if you're at night and the moon no longer gives its light, and the powers of the heavens are shaken. Now, just imagine that. Has the world ever seen that? No. You know, that the sun doesn't give its light anymore. The moon doesn't give light anymore. That's the sign, and that's the time to look. And then Jesus says, look for the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. That's the time to be looking. Now, for us today, looking at the end times, it's not going to be profitable. But what would be profitable is asking yourself this question: where will I spend eternity? Will I be with Jesus, or will I be without him?